take their boats, and it makes them a little nervous. They are asked to turn in their weapons. They start their march upstairs towards the castle, which is when the dragons do a flyby. Jon and Davos duck and cover in shock. Tyrion, in kindness, helps Jon stand. Tyrion and Jon are talking. They mention the new scars they have, and they say, "A lot has changed since I saw you last pissing off the wall." When they are walking up towards Dragonstone, and before the dragons swoop down, Tyrion inquires about Sansa, assuring Jon the marriage was a farce and was unconsummated. He also says she is a lot more clever than she lets on, to which Jon replies, "Well, she's beginning to let on." Dragons swoop down. Tyrion says, "I'd say you get used to them, but you never really do." Melisandre and Varys are looking at these events happen when Varys asks what she would do next, to which she says something along the lines of, "I'll leave and go east, maybe Volantis." But Varys warns her that if she leaves, she can never come back. So Freaky says that it's because Varys believes something big is coming and that she may not be of use in the east, but she wants to remove herself because of what Jon Snow promised her, and this may be the last time we see her this season at least. But another leaker says that she also tells Varys that he must die in this strange land just like she will. Lord. So Jon and Dany first meet in the throne room of Dragonstone. She is seated and someone calls out her titles: Stormborn, Unburnt, Mother of Dragons, Breaker of Chains, blah 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 blah. She receives Jon and demands that he bends the knee. Jon says no. The meeting is tense. Ned Stark was one of the usurper's dogs. No, your father is crazy. He killed my uncle and grandfather, blah blah. Dany is frustrated that Jon is the only one who responded to her ravens. The rest of the lords ignored her. Jon tells her about the threat coming from the north and he wants dragonglass. Dany thinks Jon is crazy, but Tyrion knows Jon isn't crazy. And Davos has Jon's back again with a great speech, and this one is the one from the trailer where he says it won't matter what skeleton sits on the Iron Throne. They go back and forth about Neil, no, and their first meeting is a draw. Dany finds out about the massacre of her fleet through Varys, which bums her out. Jon and Tyrion then have a talk where Jon tries to convince Tyrion about the Long Night and how he needs dragonglass. Then Jon and Dany talk about dragons and dragonglass. Before Dany leaves, she tells Jon he can stay. Jon says, "Am I a prisoner?" And she says, "Not yet." Next is the invasion on Castle Rock, the Unsullied attack from two fronts. Some go through the sewage drains that Tyrion oversaw when he lived there so that they can open the doors. Others climb ladders over the walls, but things aren't as they thought they were, since the rock is almost defenseless because most of the Lannister army is on its way to attack Highgarden. This leaves Grey Worm confused. An unknown force attacks the ships that transported the Unsullied to the rock, leaving the Unsullied stranded. Possibly the Greyjoy fleet. They have the castle, but the best trained soldiers and best military commander that Dany has can't come back home. Strategically, things aren't so great. The Lannisters so far outsmarted Dany and Tyrion. The entire operation is a disaster. And supposedly Tyrion is talking over this whole scene like he's the narrator. Next is King's Landing, where Jaime and Cersei have their sex scene, which is interrupted by a knock on the door saying someone has arrived. Apparently, Cersei gets on her knees for Jaime, if you know what I mean. Jaime tells her not to open the door since they'll be seen in bed together, but Cersei doesn't give a fuck and says she's the queen and can do whatever she wants. Euron then has a heroic parade through King's Landing, dragging Yara, Illyria, and Tyene. Euron then walks into the throne room, high-chested, possibly still on his horse, and bragging on how great he is, which people praise him for. Sometime during these events, Euron and Jaime have a funny conversation, to which Euron has the balls to ask Jaime for Cersei's sexual desires and preferences. Supposedly, he asked Jaime if Cersei likes her ass fingered. Cersei is happy to see those who murdered her daughter and is sexually aroused by it. She tells Euron he will have whatever his heart desires. After the war is won, of course. Cersei then takes her prisoners to the dungeon, 2 cells where Cersei gives Tyene the kiss of death, the same kiss Illyria gave Myrcella, which ended up killing her, which Illyria looks at with horror, not being able to save her daughter. Cersei has her revenge. This might be the last time we see Illyria, but we don't know if she dies or not. Yara is taken prisoner. She isn't killed, but badly treated and maybe rescued by Theon. There's a quick scene of Theon being holstered up from the sea by the surviving Greyjoy boat, not Euron's. The captain asks her about Yara. He tells her he got her, but he couldn't save her, but he tried. And he says he wouldn't be here if he tried. Later, Cersei is visited by Tycho Nestoris from the Iron Bank and pretty much says it's time to pay up, which Cersei tries to negotiate, saying that she'll keep the peace and that she's the best option for Westeros. Tycho isn't impressed and says if she doesn't pay, he'll back Dany, which is when Cersei decides to pay back the Iron